Just left my house, going to Australia.
Welcome to Modern Grand Tour with me, Garden Low. After travelling through Europe and Russia, we're now in the final part of my round the world journey, where we'll visit South Korea, Japan and finally Australia. In this 25th episode of the series, we'll learn about geek culture, cute culture, sex culture and the Second World War. So let's explore Japan's capital, Tokyo. Arriving in the morning with the lights slowly revealing the appropriately nicknamed Land of the Rising Sun, I could already sense the enormity of Tokyo. Indeed, the city is the world's largest by metropolitan population, richest by GDP, and safest measured by crime and well-being. And most dauntingly, on my first day here, it has the most complex subway map I had ever seen.
Big cities are so hard to navigate. Public transport is always the issue. Tokyo, mental.
My first stop in this already mental city is Sensoji. Built in 628, Tokyo's oldest Buddhist temple is also the world's most visited spiritual site. And its most popular time is during the Sanja Matsuri, Tokyo's largest festival, which celebrates the temple's founders. The event is also a rare opportunity to see the Yakuza, as these normally discreet gang members wear nothing but sumo-style underwear in a display of power. On my visit, although I missed out on these tattooed bum cheeks, I was lucky enough to be shown around by a couple of guides who directed me to the temple's Buddhist oracle, because who doesn't love good news about themselves?
Okay, you give your number, 83.
No way! I was born in 1983. So yeah, this is good to be.
Maybe.
Bad fortune. I'm quite disturbed because the first thing I saw was the words bad fortune. It says, your wishes will not be realised. Hang on. It is impossible to envy the clear moon. Even if you wish to see the moon, it is behind the clouds. The patient will not recover soon. The lost article will not be found. The person you are waiting for will not come. Building up a new house and removal are both bad. It is bad to make a trip. Both marriage and employment are bad. This is the worst thing. This has to be. Believe it.
Don't worry.
Don't worry. Whoever pulls out 83,
Don't pull it.
don't pull it out. Pull it back. Do it again. Shake it again.
Clearly Buddhism is not for me. Anyway, for my next activity, I had to put these socks on.
That feels weird.
Well,
Kawaii 流れていきます。
streaming into the river.
雨が降ります。
Rain falls.
今度は川から大きな海へとその水が流れていきます。
Going down to the ocean and make big waves. Everyone stand up and ready for the dance.
Cherry blossom.
Big dancer.
You're too kind.
If Cairo has the pyramids, which represents the birth of civilization, and Rome has the Colosseum, which represents the age of empires, then Tokyo has the Shibuya Crossing, which represents today's world of globalization. Located at the heart of Tokyo's liveliest retail district, the world's busiest pedestrian crossing sees up to 3,000 people stream past each other every 2 minutes, while surrounded by giant televisions, neon-lit advertising, and the world's most profitable Starbucks. Its hyper-modern feel reminded me of Blade Runner. Maybe this is what all cities will look like in 500 years' time. So let's get involved.
So I am doing the old Tokyo walk in Shibuya. The famous walk. Don't know why I'm commentating, just walk. Look, they're even having their wedding photos there. This is how famous this place is. I think I'm going to go for another walk, just for the sake of it. Oh, look, let's go. I want to be the first across. I'm going to walk fast. Let's see if I can be the first one across. There's 2 people ahead of me. Just got to catch him up. Oh no, he's going to beat me. Fuck. He's so fast. Look at his legs go. Ah, I come third. Oh, maybe I should do it one more time. That was fun.
I then went to Kabukicho, Japan's largest entertainment area.
Can you see the dinosaur? From the roof, at the back. That's awesome. They've got Godzilla up there.
And which, aside from Godzilla, may be best known for its red light district. But unlike Amsterdam and Osaka's simple window shop system, in Tokyo there are different stores with different services. Opai pub, kissing and fondling above the waist with 3 girls, massage and handjob, pink salons, blowjob, then jumping up in price and service, fashion health, everything but intercourse, image club, everything but intercourse in a fantasy setting, and finally Soplan, full intercourse. Now, with Kabukicho's wide menu of sex, it is somewhat odd that Japan is actually the world's least sexually active country, and has the 3rd lowest birth rates in the world. Indeed, with Japan's population estimated to decline by almost 500,000 people each year, it has now been declared a national crisis due to impending tax losses and a labour shortage, critically in the care industry, as Japan has the world's highest life expectancy. And while the government has attempted to address the issue with cash incentives for giving birth, relaxing immigration laws and funding in robotics, the key question remains: why are the Japanese not having sex? Nobody really knows, but the most common reasons put forward are: first, extreme culture, where a business culture of overworking means there is no time for relationships, and a pop culture focused on cuteness means there is more aspiration to be innocent than sexy. Second, high technology, where infinite online porn has made people sexually satisfied, and constant online gaming has eroded real-life social skills. And third, economic downturn, where job insecurity, low incomes, and still having to live with parents mean people choose not to have families, and increasing working women mean relationships and motherhood are sacrificed for a career. In sum, Japan's sex culture, while on the surface displays a neon-lit self-confidence, underneath lie possibly cultural, technological and economic challenges that pose an existential threat to the country.
Capsule Hotel.
How nuts is this?
Yeah, as you can see, it's a capsule in my telly. I'm whispering because the capsules are like, there's one there, and one there. They're like, and they're like, they're plastic. And like sometimes you get in them, you kind of elbow the ball by accident, and you know the person next door is like, oh, stop elbowing the walls.
Dave! Dave! Dave!
On my second day in Tokyo, I visited Akihabara, the home of otaku culture, otaku meaning geek, and who better to join me than my best mate from London, and somewhat of an otaku himself, Dave.
Right, which way, Dave?
That way.
Our first stop was one of the hundreds of manga and anime hobby shops. Manga are Japanese comics, and anime are Japanese animations, consumed by both children and adults. Influenced by US comics and animated Disney films, its now uniquely Japanese style of big eyes, big hair and big boobs has produced most famously the manga Dragon Ball and the Oscar-winning anime Spirited Away. Throughout Japan there are even manga cafes, which are manga and anime libraries where one can even stay overnight and get proper manga out.
Oh yeah, this is something you can do. I should have given him a banana skin.
We then went to visit another part of otaku culture. Japan has been a constant world leader in video games. From today's PlayStation and Switch to the 90s SNES and Mega Drive, all the way back to the arcades. Now you'd think being able to play games in the comfort of your own home would mark the death of arcades, and you'd be right, except for one country. Japan still makes a staggering $3.8 billion from the arcade industry, which is not too far away from the $4.7 billion of its console industry. So why are Japanese arcades still popular? First, business structure, as many arcade buildings are owned by the game makers, providing economic advantages. Second, geography, as many arcades are by train stations, so it's convenient to visit after school, university and work. And third, Japan's love of novelty, especially in the physical experience of gaming, that's difficult to replicate at home, such as getting people to dance, to play instruments, or to try and win manga figures from the claw.
I'm just going to see just roughly what you can do. That didn't move at all.
What's that lot you do dressing up?
Oh, it's all the cosplay stuff, yeah.
And this is the last part of otaku culture. Short for costume play, cosplay involves dressing up to look like characters most commonly from manga, anime and video games. And the world's biggest fan convention of 500,000 people, Comiket, is of course right here in Tokyo. Sadly, Dave and I didn't get round to cosplay, but had we done so, we definitely would have chosen our favourite Street Fighter characters. In the evening, we met up with Dave's sister Tina and visited the Harajuku district, famous for being the unofficial home of Japan's Kawaii culture. Kawaii meaning cute.
Oh my goodness. Come on. Like that.
Alright, let's go. I can stand there ages just pretending.
Just send it to be a samurai.
Because you would carry it around like a ninja sword as well, like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then when it rains, you go. And then you press the button, thing flaps up like.
After people have gone running because they think he's a nutter.
Just down the road is the Kawaii Monster Cafe, which according to its website, visualises Harajuku like a monster that swallows everything in its path.
Come here. Yes. 5-10 minutes. Arigatou gozaimasu. Okay. Wow. Oh, wow.
This is just another wacky thing about Japan, isn't it?
The Kawaii Monster Cafe is just one of a multitude of products that make up Japan's cute culture, most visible in fashion, advertising, food packaging and stationery, but also appearing in more surprising areas like the subway, roadsides and in the skies. So how did Kawaii culture take over Japan? In the early 1970s, teenage schoolgirls began to use mechanical pencils, and with its finer lines began to write in a new style, stressing curves, writing horizontally and drawing tiny pictures. In what was labelled kitten writing or fake child writing, teenagers were suddenly expressing themselves in Japan's conformist and hierarchical society. Soon this cute style became evident in schoolgirls' appearance and attitude, and thus was born a new market. Because in 1975, Hello Kitty appeared on a purse, and the success of this anthropomorphic cat, with its big round head, little arms and muted speech, would inspire the design of more cute characters, creating Kawaii culture. Today, Hello Kitty is the world's second highest grossing media franchise, with the top spot going to another Japanese Kawaii creation, Pokemon. So there you go, mechanical pencils to Pikachu, the story of Kawaii.
I would describe it like a psychedelic clockwork orange. It's or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with drugs, or life inside a bubble gum.
We were then treated to dancing Harajuku girls, one of which happened to be Dave's sister Tina. Go on, Tina.
Edo-Tokyo Museum. Let's learn about the history of Tokyo.
With Dave and Tina now flown out of the country, I carried on my learning with a visit to the city's museum. But before we enter, let's bring us up to speed. Japan's history is divided into several periods. The first verifiable Japanese emperor marks the beginning of the Asuka period, and over the next 700 years, Japanese emperors would rule the country until Japan's first shogun, a hereditary military dictator, comes to power, beginning the Kamakura period, and reduces the emperor to a ceremonial role. In the late 1500s, a jostle for power culminates in the Battle of Sekigahara, where 160,000 samurai gather for the biggest samurai battle in history, fought between the western clans in Osaka and the eastern clans based in Edo, or what is now Tokyo. With the East victorious, their leader, Tokugawa Ieyasu, becomes the shogun of a new dynasty, and so begins the next phase of Japanese history, called the Edo period. The Edo period is known for its strict class order, based on moral purity. Ukiyo-e woodblock prints, most famously Hokusai's The Great Wave, and Kabuki theatre, played by all men. However, it was its isolationist policy that would be most significant.
Foreign trade was limited to Chinese and Dutch.
Chinese and Dutch?
Yes, because Dutch appeared threatening to the shogun because they were not interested in Christianity.
Right.
They were just interested in trade.
Oh, right.
And it would be this that would ultimately be the shogun's undoing.
In 1853, American Commodore Perry arrived in Japan.
Okay.
They brought a letter from American President Fillmore, and they demanded opening country.
Why?
The U.S. wanted to have a port for whaling. Shogun didn't have any money.
Right.
They wanted to avoid anyone, so they bowed to the pressure. They signed the treaty.
And this resulted in Japan's economic destabilisation and anti-Western sentiment and violence, which came to a head in 1867.
The shogun was losing control of the country, and the shogun returned the power to the emperor.
After almost 700 years of shogun rule, the emperor was back in power. In this new phase of modern Japan, the emperor's first act is to move to Edo, making the city the official capital and changing its name to Tokyo.
So the
Tokyo means Eastern capital.
Eastern capital, right.
Over the next decades, having seen Europe dominate the once great China, Japan rapidly modernises by abolishing the feudal system, wiping out the samurai class, beginning their industrial revolution with railroads and factories, and adopting Western practices such as politics from Germany, education from Britain, agriculture from the United States, engineering from the Netherlands, arts from Italy, and significantly, the military from France, which results in victories over China, Russia, Korea, and overseas Germany. Now, as one of the world's Big Five, Japan submits the racial equality proposal as a tenet for the newly forming League of Nations, requesting that the equality of nations being a basic principle of the League, and to make no distinction on account of race or nationality. And this is happily accepted by everyone, except the US for domestic reasons, and Britain for colonial reasons, so it ended up not being accepted at all. Now, an increasingly nationalist Japan announces a dream to create the Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere, which is officially a bloc of Asian nations led by the Japanese and free of Western powers. This dream, promoted by the slogan Asia for Asiatics, would become reality in the Second World War, when Japan begins their campaign of liberation, capturing Vietnam, Laos and Cambodia from the French, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Brunei, Singapore and Burma from the British, Papua New Guinea from the Australians, Indonesia from the Dutch, East Timor from the Portuguese, the Philippines and the Pacific Islands from the Americans, and China and Thailand from, well, the Chinese and Thai. Because in reality, rather than these Asian countries being liberated, they were in fact subjugated. Most infamously in the Nanking Massacre, where the then capital of China experiences 6 weeks of the most brutal rape and murder. Also within this period, Japan, without a declaration of war, conducted a surprise attack on the US naval base of Pearl Harbor, a decision reportedly described at the time by the fearful Japanese naval commander as awakening a sleeping giant. The next day, the US enters the war. By 1945, with Japan having lost the strategically important Pacific Islands, the US are now close enough to attack Japanese soil.
Huge indiscriminate air raid carried out on the Shibuya quarters in downtown Tokyo. 330,000 incendiary bombs were dropped, and it killed 100,000 people in a single night.
Wow.
These areas were burned to the ground.
Although the war is now all but lost, Japan refused to surrender on the enemy's terms and prepare their home front for one long final battle. But the US have literally a secret weapon.
August 15th, the emperor accepted unconditional surrender.
Right.
And Japan was occupied by the United States.
Right.
And Japan lost everything. And food was always in short supply.
With the shortage of food, homes and jobs, the country begins what has been dubbed the Japanese economic miracle through factors such as the Yoshida Doctrine, which focuses on industry rather than military, the Korean War, where Japan profits as the US logistics base, the Keiretsu, which are consortiums that limit foreign goods, and salarymen, who are lifetime employees loyal enough to work 15-hour days, which all resulted in the economy growing 3 times faster than the rest of the world, exemplified by the mass production and consumption of Japan's 3 sacred treasures.
In the 50s, these 3 fridge and TV and
Washing machine? Yeah.
Yes, these are symbol of material wealth.
Right.
Yeah.
And less than 20 years after the country's humiliating defeat in the war, Japan's miraculous turnaround is complete.
In 1964, Tokyo held Summer Olympic Games and demonstrated to the world that Japan's reconstruction
Right.
was possible.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop there. In the 1970s, Japan becomes the world's leading car maker, known for their reliability. And in the 1980s, Japan becomes the world's leading electronics manufacturer, known for their innovation. Most famously with the Sony Walkman, the JVC-designed VHS, and the Casio calculator watch. But this was my personal favourite.
Do you know this?
Is it like a Nintendo? Yeah.
This is the first Nintendo.
I had Nintendo.
Oh, really? It's Super Mario.
Wow.
Today, Japan is the world's 3rd richest country, whilst Tokyo is the world's richest city, marking an incredible journey from self-isolation to world domination, then from political collapse to economic miracle. My next stop was the Yasukuni Shrine, which belongs to Japan's indigenous religion, Shinto. Although only 3% of the population identify as Shintoist, 80% practice Shinto rituals, such as cleansing, bell ringing, wish writing and prayer. And this is due to the prevalence of Shinto shrines, commonly recognised by their distinctive gate, known as a torii. The Yasukuni Shrine, built in 1869, was originally designed to commemorate Japanese soldiers killed in the wars of the period, but has since expanded to later wars, including the Second World War. Most notably, there is a Book of Souls, where to be listed absolves the individual of earthly deeds. Now, of the 2.5 million people named, 1,000 are convicted Second World War criminals, 14 of which are of the Class A type, namely the heads of military, including Hideki Tojo, the then Prime Minister. Of course, this has created and continues to create a strain on international relations, particularly with China and South Korea. Furthermore, the Yasukuni Shrine also operates a war museum, which has been criticised as being overly nationalistic, as exemplified by its revisionist card on the Nanking Massacre, which simply states that Japanese General Matsui told his soldiers that they were to maintain strict military discipline and that anyone committing unlawful acts would be severely punished. Today, although the Yasukuni Shrine and its museum divides Japanese public opinion, it still serves as the country's main and moving place of remembrance for those connected to the Second World War.
Seeing the old people here, the old Japanese people here, it's made me feel like, they have histories too. They'll either be remembering when they were in battle, or when their friends were, their lost friends, or their lost brothers, sisters, fathers. Even though I've been educated to understand that the Nazis were bad people, the Japanese were bad people in the war, there's a sense of feeling a sense of kind of respect that I should be paying, walking around to those who died. I mean, God, imagine if I was at Hiroshima, how would I be feeling? I'm gonna start bawling my eyes out soon. Just come out of the station to go to Imperial Palace. It's all looking rather swanky. Doop 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 doo. Doop 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 doo. Doop 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 doo. Reached my destination. I think it's just a bridge.
The Imperial Palace is home to the world's oldest monarchy, officially dating from 660 BC, and last emperor, as it always seems to end badly. The Imperial Palace is also one of the priciest palaces in the world, due to its land value. Indeed, in 1989, at the height of Japan's economy, the palace grounds were worth a mind-blowing 500 times more than they are today, meaning at $5.5 trillion US. The palace was said to be worth the same as the whole of California. Today, with its moat and defence walls now keeping out camera-wielding tourists instead of enemy samurai, the only thing one can see is Japan's most famous bridge.
I think these people are more interesting. What do you reckon? Is that more interesting or is this more interesting? I've had enough now, let's go. Let's go, it's cold. I'm just jealous because I don't have 20 friends with me. And a selfie stick, it used to be bloody arm. Right, last day in Japan, fish market. Let's go. Bring them here. The big fish.
Tsukiji Fish Market is, as the name suggests, the place to buy fish, with deliveries each morning from their neighbouring fresh-off-the-boat wholesalers, famous for their 5 AM auctions. Indeed, on New Year's Day 2019, the bluefin tuna, nicknamed the Black Diamond, set a record for the world's most expensive fish, when it sold for £2.5 million, meaning at £300 a bite, I could probably afford a couple of licks. Now, sushi, meaning vinegared rice, is made up of maki, which is when the rice is rolled, and nigiri, which is when the rice is made into a mound. There is also sashimi, which is just fish and not sushi because it doesn't have the vinegared rice. But whatever, just stuff it in your mouth.
I just tried that fish, it was so good.
The Ryogoku Sumo Hall is home to what is considered Japan's national sport. Usually closed when there's no event. On my visit, there happened to be a trade show, and so I just walked in and tried not to look like a tourist.
I don't know. Oh, wow! How awesome is this? Because I'm inside a sumo arena. It's like I'm watching the sumo, except there's no sumo. But you can feel the... I'm guessing they're the champion sumos up there.
So what exactly is sumo? In short, it's two guys in a circle. The first guy who steps out of the ring or touches the floor with anything other than his feet loses. To illustrate, here's what is considered one of the best fights ever, right here in the Ryogoku Sumo Hall. The guy on the left, Hakuho, is not only a Yokozuna or Grand Champion, but also the greatest of all time. The guy on the right, Haramafuji, is the next big thing. The 2012 Yusho, or Championship, is on the line.
Straight on, Haramafuji into the Yokozuna. He's in an awkward position. The Yokozuna looks to have the strength here, right hand in. Haramafuji with no left hand grip. The Yokozuna no left hand as well. Now Haramafuji goes deep with the left. He's very good at hineri moves occasionally. But the Yokozuna picks him up, drives him to the edge, digging in as Haramafuji. No grip with the left of any strength at the moment. He can pull a Dashinage too on occasions, but I think he needs to drive forward against the much stronger Yokozuna. Chest to chest, the head into the chest by Haramafuji into Hakuho. Doesn't allow Hakuho to pull a throw with the right from here. But does it become Uchimuso? Does he slap the right hand, left hand, or left leg of... Tries a leg sweep. I'd be using the hand to knock the knee. Chest to chest once again. Is it going to be Hakuho or Haramafuji? Left hand in under the armpit via the Yokozuna. Now driving is Haramafuji. A little lower now. He's in a better position. He can drive from this position. Hakuho's got that angled stance. Leg sweeps could be the order of the day here. If Hakuho seems to be in not a perfect position, if Haramafuji can drive here. This is for the Yusho. 1 minute 30 seconds already gone by. No grip from the left hand. There's the Haramafuji driving against Hakuho. Hakuho digs in at the edge, then gets attempted throw by Haramafuji. They're both tired, and Haramafuji drives, but he can't get it done. Now he tries a topping sumo, and it's Haramafuji's Yusho. Exceptional.
Sumo developed over 1,500 years ago as a way to entertain the Shinto gods, and this is evident in the ring's canopy modelled on a shrine, the referee being dressed like a priest, and the pre-match ritual of clapping to the gods, stomping evil spirits, and throwing salt cleansing the arena. But Shinto is also evident in the philosophy of sumo, where, for example, the sport's highest status of Yokozuna is only considered for when a wrestler has typically won back-to-back tournaments, but crucially only confirmed when the Sumo Association judges that the wrestler possesses the dignity befitting of the title. Because sumo is not just a sport, but a way of life, as wrestlers live in sumo stables with around 15 others, and which have strict rules, such as they must dress in respectable traditional clothes, which makes them easy to spot in public if their size didn't already give them away, have a man-bun haircut inspired by the noble samurai, which makes them the original hipsters, and behave with modesty and honour at all times, which is the exact opposite of boxing. Sumo, I think, seems to be the embodiment of the Japanese mentality. Today, however, sumo is in somewhat of a crisis. In the last 20 years, of the 6 people who have become a Yokozuna, only 1 was Japanese. And in an increasingly globalised Japan, where for example baseball is Japan's most watched sport, there is the inevitable danger that traditions like sumo get left behind.
I'm not going to walk out and they're all going to bow and say something. So let's see. It's so embarrassing me. It's like everyone's looking at me. Why are they all looking at me?
I then went to this posh hotel where I'd signed up for a free class. Zen is a school of Japanese Buddhism that promotes being aware of what is now. But rather than through scripture, its primary method is called Zazen, but which is also known as seated meditation, silent illumination, and my favourite, just sitting. But I'll let the Zen master explain.
We are now conditioned to move around. We've developed the muscle to be faster, more distant. But this sitting practice is kind of opposite to this condition. We cross our legs like this, so that we cannot move. Right? This is a concrete gesture to show the commitment. I don't move. In sitting meditation, we combine the hand this way, and then so that we cannot move. So we have to give up our ability to manipulate. And also, we shut our mouth during meditation. This is also we often use in the daytime. Right? And also, we have a tremendous ability to think about what is not here, past or future. We meditate means not think. Rather, we try to be more aware of what is now. So, legs, hands, mouth, and the brain, we try to use those 4 privileged ability as a human being. We suspend or give up for a while. For some people, it's very scary because they cannot show off their ability or differentiate themselves from others. We become just simply a thing. Okay, let's try what's happening inside yourself.
We then sat in silence for 10 minutes, which felt more like an hour. Then did walking Zazen for 5 minutes, which was the slowest walk I'd ever done, and so that seemed pretty long. And then sat again for another 10 minutes, where I completely failed the point of the task of being aware of what is now, by accidentally going to sleep. Not snoring like, but definitely not Zen.
And bow to each other.
Just came out of the Grand Hotel behind me, and what was it? A couple of hours of zenning out there. Although, I have to admit, I was napping. I'm a very energetic man, and so when you tell me just to keep still and stay silent for longer than 10 minutes, I'm going to sleep. Oh, just remembered another funny thing that happened. So at the start, the Zen master got us all to lie on the floor, and he said, and close your eyes, and he said, right, feel your hands, feel your legs, feel your toes, feel your head. And, so I'm feeling my head, feeling my legs, feeling my toes, eyes closed. After about like 15 minutes of me feeling myself, I can hear myself kind of like rustling around, and I can't hear anyone else rustling around. So I open my eyes, and everyone is completely still. It was at that point I realised you're supposed to feel it with your brain. I wasn't using my brain. An idiot. I'm an idiot. I don't think Zen's for me.
And so, having one last view of Tokyo from the top of City Hall, I could conclude that Tokyo might just be my all-time favourite city. And that's because of how unique it is. From its history, where shoguns and samurais led an isolationist country, and where the Second World War saw the Greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere, to its traditions, where yokozunas are idolised for their dignity, and where fish is revered like diamonds. And finally to today, where otaku culture allows people to play in Japan's work-driven society, and where kawaii culture allows people to express themselves in Japan's conformist society. Indeed, this only in Japan quality is evident in the fact that the most common sentiment used by outsiders to describe the country is a variation of the same word. Wacky, bizarre, surreal, crazy, bonkers, quirky, and absurd.
Tokyo, mental.
And if being unique wasn't enough, Japan has the most polite and welcoming people I've ever met, who showed me the first Nintendo.
I know Japan loves computer games.
Some people.
You know, okay.
Who showed me how to cleanse myself with incense.
Okay, get it in my hair, rub it on my okay, that's enough. That's enough.
who showed me how to do the cherry blossom. And who showed me how to zen.
Don't try to control, just feel.
Join me in the next episode of Modern Grand Tour, where we'll finally reach Australia. So until next time, Godspeed.